Welcome to this week's episode of Surgeon Interrupted. Check out all of our shows and other content at hippocratic-collective.com. Today, I'm so excited to welcome Dr. Ryan Montoya back on the show.
I made it back. I did it.
Fan favorite. Definitely one of my favorite people to cut up with.
This is great. It's great to be back. Thank you so much for having me.
Where are you calling in from today, Ryan?
I'm calling in from Belgrade, Serbia, which is where my wife and I live now with my family.
Amazing. Well, I believe last time that we had you on the show, you were dialing in from Moscow. So absolutely, little change of scenery.
That's right. We just got here a few weeks ago and we're settling in, but we love it here. And it's a completely different environment from where we were the last few years.
Absolutely. Yeah, I see like the sun shining in
That's
behind
right.
you.
That's right. It's a glorious day. It's a glorious fall day here. I can't complain.
Oh, I love that. And do you guys get like real fall weather? Because it hasn't cooled down in Tennessee to the degree I would like.
Yeah. I don't know if you have full 4 seasons in Tennessee. Here we do have it. I will say it turns on a dime. So it was hot, 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 hot. And then cold snap, not really cold, but like super crisp fall weather. And so it kind of took us aback. It took the city aback because it took them a while to turn on the city heat. But it's good. I can't complain. Fall's the greatest season. Fight me. And hopefully this will last a long time and winter won't be too bad. I really don't think it'll be that bad.
Yeah. I won't fight you. I totally agree that fall is the best season. Like, there's no contest for me with fall. But I'm a Libra, so I think that I'm biased.
Wait, what Libra is what? What month are you?
Well, it goes end of September into October, because of course I wish that the signs just nicely aligned with months. That would be like so much easier than being like, wow, do you straddle the line?
That's
Like,
right.
I will tell you, I think that you'll appreciate that I was talking to a girl a few years ago and she was very into signs and we'd known each other for a bit, kind of like through our boyfriends.
Yeah.
And so she was like, okay, what sign are you? And I was like, Libra. And she was like, oh, yeah, cool. That makes sense. Yeah, Libra. And then she was like, wait, but what day? And when I told her September 25th, she gasped. Audibly, she gasped and took like a step back and she was like, a September Libra.
Because you're like a unicorn, or like, is this like a rare thing?
No, I think that there's something, based on her reaction, there's something sinister about September Libras. Like, honestly, I mean, I don't know, write in, educate us. I don't know what it was, but I'm telling you, she literally was like,
yeah, that's the Hangman tarot card. Yeah. It's dangerous.
On board with an October Libra, which would be more than, I think would be 75% or so of them.
Yeah. There has to be some sort of like advanced academic study on this. I'm Virgo. I'm late August. And so when I tell people who like this sort of stuff, they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And I will write this off because I don't believe in that kind of thing, but I will just as soon believe in birth order theory, which doesn't have as much, has basically the same amount of evidence behind it, but I'm like, oh, it makes sense. You're a middle child. So like, pick your poison. It's either, birth signs or birth order. There's something you believe about personality and where you can slot that personality inside.
Absolutely. And like, honestly, I think we're all just like trying our best, so like we're looking for reasons to explain or blame
why we are.
Exactly. Blame is good because like, it feels so good to just be like, oh, that's crazy. That's the Libra in me. Like I couldn't have thought that.
Correct. Yeah. I mean, officer, I stole this because I am a late Virgo. I mean, it's in the signs. Your Honor, please show some leniency.
Your Honor, please. I'm a Virgo. Just throw the hands up. I love that so much.
That's right. Yeah.
I will say, okay, so on a cursory glance here, Virgo traits include being, and I do like this ties into today's conversation, by the way.
Wow.
We're going to get there, folks. We are talking about graphic medicine, but I think it is important to, get this kind of like context for Ryan, where he's at now. I think that this Virgo background is interesting. So include being analytical, meticulous, practical with strong attention to detail. They're also known for being loyal, kind, and hardworking, driven by desire to help others improve. However, their perfectionistic tendencies can lead to being overly critical and overly hard on themselves.
That all sounds correct except for the stuff that doesn't sound good. So I believe everything good about that. I don't believe anything that's bad about it. No, it actually sounds good. And that's what makes these things so compelling because it sounds specific, even if it's very, very general. And people would like always to believe that they're hardworking and meticulous, but it really fits. It fits to a T. Anyone who knows me would probably say those things. So congratulations, whoever wrote that, 10 or 10,000 years ago. You really knew what you were doing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I would say from what I know about you, it makes sense. But I agree with you. If I read that under a Libra heading, I'd be like,
And
wow,
you're like,
that's so
yeah,
damn true. Oh,
I'm
they
killing it.
had my number here. Yeah. I mean, so I get it. I will say that interestingly about Libras, like the two things that I've seen, carried across all the places that I've
Sure.
seen notes about this are number one, love of beauty. And I actually agree with that. Like the
For sure.
aesthetic eye, the
For sure.
obsession
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
beauty, like how things look
For
in every
sure.
medium. Like
Yeah.
I would agree with that. But then
Yeah.
interestingly, number two is considered diplomacy. It's like the harmony diplomacy piece.
Interesting.
I want everyone to get
Interesting.
along, quote
I can
unquote.
see that. I can see. And do you believe that? Do you believe that fits your mold? Because it sounds to me like it fits your mold from what I know about you and from what I know of you.
I might have to pull the September Libra card here and say maybe I have the obsession with beauty and then I did get like the harmony
See,
gene.
you,
Because I
you split
actually,
the difference. Yeah.
yeah, I disagree. I would say I am one of the people, and I think people, my friends would say this about me. I am one of the people most likely to be comfortable with disagreement. I don't
Interesting.
think that we all have to
Yeah.
agree. I'm
Yeah.
not a
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
pleaser. I'm
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Yeah.
gonna, ruin the whole day trying to sort out if somebody's like having fun or not. That
Right.
actually does not sound like me.
And you don't have any problem with that discomfort, even that brief, awkward silence between you saying no and I want to change something and that person having to change it. That doesn't bother you at all. Because, like, that's what most people pleasers are bothered by, that little awkward silence. Doesn't bother
No.
you.
And you know what's so funny? Yeah, that
Yeah.
silence doesn't bother me. That's the
you,
least of
you,
my problems. Like I've had
you
many
drink it in.
awkward yeah. I like a lot of things have happened that are more awkward. That does not trouble me. But what's so interesting because that example of like kind of setting a boundary or just being
Sure.
like, respectfully,
Sure.
no, I don't have the
Sure.
bandwidth. I
Yeah.
have no problem with it socially. But at work, the reason why, no, at work, it's hard for me to say, hey, that's
Yeah.
like outside the scope. And that's
Yeah.
hard
Yeah.
for me
Yeah.
because I want to do really good work and I'm like married to the game. So
Yeah.
but it's not
And
discomfort of
yeah.
like, I'm going to
Yeah.
let you
Yeah. Yeah.
down.
Yeah. And you want to feel like you're part of the team is part of this thing that's been ingrained with us and training through medicine is like,
Yeah.
oh, be a team player.
Yeah.
You and Colin just had this emergency podcast about your time in Europe, and you mentioned you had a bad hotel and you just said, this is not working and I'm going to leave. Can I tell you, in a million years, I will complain to the end of the earth about a bad hotel experience, but I would never go up and say, I'm not going to do this. I'm moving to a different hotel. I don't have it in
You're
me.
too
I'm
nice.
just
You're nice though. That's Virgo coded. They said
That's Virgo
they're
code.
kind. They're loyal. You're loyal to a
That means
bad
I'm
hotel. Like
I'm a pushover. I mean, you got rats crawling around in the hotel room. I'd be like,
no.
well, I guess this is a story. Like I would just eat it. I mean, like I've had so many bad haircuts, and I look in the mirror and they're like, is this fine? And I look at the barber and I'm like, it's fine. And I just
Like
can't do
tears
it.
welling up in your eyes. Yeah.
One time I had a barber who gave such a bad haircut. She goes, is this fine? And I said, no. She's like, really? I can do more. And I'm like, no, no, it's fine. I leave. I go, as I was in college, I go back to my dorm room. My roommate sees my haircut and he says, go back to the barber. That is bad. They made a big mistake. I go back to the barber and she goes, I made a mistake, right? I'll fix it. And I go, yeah.
Wow. I will
Yeah.
tell you, and this is what your roommate reminds me of. I love the old tweet
Yeah.
that's like, because somebody said, nice men, like good men, why are you with this like loud woman? And the
I
guy
need him.
says, because somebody needs to tell the waiter that I ordered mashed potatoes and it's not going to be me.
110%. You need someone else. I need someone to be my advocate. Maria will be there and be like, take out those clippers, do your work, do not send us away like this. And she is that balancing force in certain things. I'm that balancing force in other ways, but for all practical personal interactions with the service industry or with any other kind of people that I'm trying to get a service from, it is a disaster. I'm such a pathological people pleaser.
I mean, it's amazing, and I do think that people pleasers can get, like, really far people pleasing, in a
Yeah.
way that I see and respect. And I will say with the Libra harmony thing, what's interesting is maybe if we go on this journey and we allow a
Yeah.
looser definition, because
Yeah.
it's not the superficial, is
Yeah.
everyone having fun at this party? It's I would say that one of the things I'm most driven by, and it has been like my full hamartia, my fatal flaw, literally like my Greek
Mm,
tragedy fatal flaw, is like obsession with justice. Is this fair? And if it's not
interesting.
fair, I'm gonna short circuit, sink the ship
Yeah.
just to kill the captain. Like, I'm gonna lose my mind if it's not fair. And of
Yeah.
course, that's another reason why like residency didn't go really like smoothly for me.
Right, because you're looking for justice, and this is not it's not a place that metes out justice in residency. Let's say it is not fair at all.
Yeah, and I mean, but what's interesting too is yes, I had a lot of black and white thinking, and with a absence of nuance, like I will say, there is not a 100% equitable way to divvy up cases, surgical
No,
cases amongst
no,
residents, right? So,
no.
I mean, one thing that helped me a lot was learning like the fallacy of fairness. I've at least gotten to the
Sure,
point where, again, it
sure.
doesn't like, crumble the mind to be faced with like
Right,
such an
right.
injustice or like disparate treatment,
Yeah,
in inconsistency from
yeah.
people, because guess what? Like, people are really inconsistent, so
Correct. I think right now with your current role and your current job, it works well. So you put on that great Hippocratic Collective meetup in Philadelphia. It was a fantastic dinner. You mentioned your aesthetic sense, but then also I bet there are all these millions of choices. Planning an event involves a million little choices, right? And there could have been a bunch of times where you said, okay, that's fine. Okay, that's fine. Compromising one thing or another. But in order for it to get exactly the way you wanted it, it involved you kind of sticking to your decision guns. And I think that whether that's for, party planning or coming up with things for Hippocratic Collective, it's very, very conducive to a job that involves a lot of different moving parts. If you're too much of a people pleaser, you're letting too many other decisions be made for you, then everything kind of gets washed away, or your personal voice gets washed away, I think.
yeah, I do not find it hard to make decisions. Like,
That's
it's
good.
pretty fast, and then I stick with
That's
it forever. I
that's
bought
great.
2 houses
Yeah,
that were, like, the first house that I saw, and I'm
that's
happy with that
amazing.
decision. But, I mean,
That's
that takes a
amazing.
specific
Skill
weird
set.
type of cat. Yeah.
No, it's that Libra. It's the edge of the Libra. It's
The Libra cusp.
the Libra
Those
cusp.
bitches are
That's the
crazy.
that's the edge of the blade with Libra. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
well, again, we're privileged to have you on here, because I will share with everyone, Ryan is our graphic medicine guru at the Hippocratic Collective. And what's so cool about graphic medicine is that I really think that it opens up a lot of us, like as physicians or healthcare workers, right, to like this whole other area that we may not have heard of. I had not heard of it until I met Ryan this year. And of course, once you hear about it, and now I've been, looking it up and checking out your world, I think that this is something we both agree we want to bring to all of you.
For sure. Thanks for that intro. Yeah. So I'm happy to be acting as the graphic medicine guru, kind of the entree to this big world, and certainly not the authority, but someone who can introduce some of these great titles and ideas to the HC listeners. But, basically, graphic medicine, it's comics about medicine, right? The formal definition is, the intersection of the discourse of medicine and the medium of comics, but it's really comics about medicine. What's nice about that is it's either as specific or as expansive as you want it to be. a definition. And so what I like to do is kind of play with that lens, kind of play with that aperture, and to say like, okay, there's certain titles, certain comics that clearly fit this definition. So for instance, one of the most famous graphic medicine titles is called Mom's Cancer by Brian Fees. It's about the author and his mom having cancer and what it was like for him to help his mom navigate through the American medical system to get his mom cancer treatment. That is right in the wheelhouse of graphic medicine. It's comics, it's medicine. And then there are other things that if you really, really bring, like widen your scope, you can fit into graphic medicine. So I hate to be like a snoop, but I'm looking at your bookshelf and you have Absolute Watchmen in the back. Okay. So Watchmen,
Yes.
one of the greatest comics of all time by Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons. And certainly this doesn't fall classically into the idea of graphic medicine, but there are elements of this that would fall into the realm of graphic medicine. So for the comedian character having been in the war and post-traumatic stress, and then
Mm-hmm.
also the idea of like humans feeling kind of impotence in the face of an actual superhero being around, which is Dr. Manhattan. I
Mm-hmm.
could make an argument for so many elements of graphic medicine in there. And so you can kind of see how you can play with this idea. And I like it
I
because
love that.
yeah, I like it also because when we talk to doctors or doctors in training or people in the healthcare field, it might on the surface not really overlap with what we're doing. We're studying, we're didactically being taught what to think and how to perform. But really, all of us have to be storytellers in one way or another. And we do this kind of naturally as we go through our training. So when you were going through your training in surgery, you probably had to do the different version of sign outs, right? So it's like you're signing out
Mm-hmm.
to your team, you're signing out to an attending, you're signing out to the ICU, and you have to give either like a 2-minute story or a 20-second story. And all of these storytelling elements involve collapsing or expanding whatever you need to tell, punching on certain points,
Mm-hmm.
painting a picture. That's really what comics is. Okay. It's storytelling. It has a visual element to it. You do not have to be a great artist to be a comic artist, but graphic medicine fits so perfectly because it's a way to tell a story, whether it's from the healthcare provider's point of view or the patient's point of view. And it could be as specific or as broad as you want it to be.
I love that. Even I can say as a writer, right? It is all about like compressing time
For
where we
sure.
need to and expanding time where we need to.
Exactly.
2 minutes can be a whole chapter, and then,
Yep.
right, like a couple years pass
Sure.
and we
Sure.
get another glimpse.
Yeah, and your story, whether it's what you're writing or whether it's a comic story, the end is the edit. It's the final edit, right? So no story ever actually ends if you're telling something. It's just when the storyteller decides this story ends now and you are the final editor. And so that's what I really like. You're trying to make a point, you're trying to tell a story, and you're effectively editing it. And these are all skills we have, especially as physicians or physicians in training, and it's something that comics do over and over again. So I like people to be introduced to this so they can see that overlap and see how much they have in common with what seems like a very disparate art form.
I love that so much. I will say that, again, what is interesting and what I'm going to point out is I view this as a difference between like the classical physician, or certainly when I, a couple years ago now, decided, yeah, I want to be an artist. I want to be a
Right.
writer. So how did I make
Right.
that jump?
Yeah.
Cornerstone idea they taught us over and over again, like with our art, our writing, but then I also think with graphic medicine, it's this show, don't tell type
Correct.
of thing. But that's
Correct.
interesting. And Ryan, and I know that, you're on the medicine side, like I'm on the surgery side, but I will tell you that is one of the most challenging things that I had to do. Like yeah, I mean, even just now, I was like, I'm going to tell you what I think. And then I told you what I thought. Like I do think that, especially in surgery, but honestly, probably for a lot of physicians and certainly the older patriarchal style ones, like before
Yeah.
we did shared decision making, like it was a lot of
Yeah.
just telling. And I think that does not make good art. So like I had to learn
Right.
that from the ground up of how am I
Yeah.
going to tell? But like you said, you pick the lens, you pick where you're going to pull back the curtain. You're going to
Sure.
show them a scene, and you do have
Sure.
to kind of leave it up to the person who is reading. and they're
Right.
gonna come to their own conclusions, but you can guide
Right.
them.
Right. And I completely agree with you. What I find interesting for writing, when you were building up that skill or developing that skill, did you find or how did you find the most effective way to get into that mindset of of showing and not telling? Because like with writing, it can be, especially if you're writing personal memoirs or narrative essays, it's very easy or tempting to be like, this is what I was thinking. This is how I was thinking it. Did you have to just strip that away and just focus on different elements of storytelling that you had not done before?
That's a great question. That's the $1,000,000 question. I will
Yeah.
say that it happened in multiple steps over
Mm.
literally the course of years. And
Yeah.
so like that was not overnight that we fixed that approach that I was having that was like so
Yeah.
problematic. Step number 1.
Yeah.
This might have been the most formative one. So when I showed up to writers group and I had maybe a third, maybe a half of a book written, kind of like more
Right.
in the series of essays forms. That's what I came out
Yeah.
of residency with
Yeah.
in early attending times. Well, guess what? I did a writers group with my personal favorite author. That was really important for someone
Awesome.
like me, where
Yeah.
I am just not always going to listen. If I don't want to hear it, I'm not going to hear it. Well, guess what? I got over that because by doing this learning with an author who I really, really respected, having your like childhood hero tell you, this is just not interesting. This is not
Amazing.
good. I was
Yeah.
like, oh man, oh, that
Yeah.
hurts. That
Yeah.
stings. But
Yeah.
like,
But it's a voice you trust. Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
100. I mean, I really couldn't noodle out or around, out of or around like,
Right.
well, oh, he just doesn't know what he's talking about. He doesn't know
Correct.
medicine. So like, he's not right. He's like a 2-digit New York Times bestseller and
Yeah.
personally someone who I really admire and like, I
Amazing.
totally agree. So it took
Amazing.
that. And then
Yeah.
I'd say, um, the showing and not telling here. I'll give a really good example. And this is something that I go over with anyone who I'm working with on their book
Sure.
now.
Sure.
Okay. I used to have a serious problem where I was going to always tell, and I
Yeah.
didn't realize the difference in voice between like the narrator, like the omnipotent writer,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Versus
Yeah. Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
the character in the book. Because it
Sure.
is my debut novel is a memoir, right? It's a literary
Right.
nonfiction.
Right.
So
Right. Right.
the best example of this is I'm writing about a guy in residency. It was one of my senior
Mm-hmm.
residents. We're going to give him a fake name.
Yeah. Yeah.
What's a fake name? Ben. I didn't train with
Ben.
anyone named Ben. That's a fake name.
Fucking Ben.
Oh,
Fucking Ben.
Ryan, I literally, and it's so funny. So I turned in this chapter. It literally is like, it's like, we're at the conference table waiting for didactics, whatever. Rat-faced Ben walks into the room and takes a seat. And it was so, and I didn't see any problem with that. I was like, yeah.
He really had a rat face.
He really does have a rat face, though. And like, and he's kind of a rat on the inside. But I just was like, that's fine to say. And they were like, absolutely not. Like, that's the omnipotent writer.
Right.
Now you've lost credibility as a writer. You can't just be like saying stuff like that. However, Frances May, the character, can think to herself, can have an inner thought. Oh, his beady rat eyes are staring at me.
Yeah, you're
and
the Jordan
what?
Belfort of that story when you're calling him a rat face. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And so I will say, like, you guys are going to see in the final manuscript, like, Frances May, the character, does think that he has, like, beady rat eyes. But the narrator won't. Because, again, like, that's not, part of it is that we have to gain credibility with the reader, like build a world where it seems, and a skilled writer can build a world so convincingly that when they say the sky is purple, you're already bought in. You're like, I'm with you. I know you built a world where believably, plausibly the sky is purple, but no, it was like, it was a little out of pocket, and it's a good way to learn a lesson.
Yeah. First of all, to be told by someone you trust, to learn that lesson by a through example. And, for writers out there, writers listening, clearly there are people who break those rules. You have Hunter S. Thompson with gonzo journalism, but you can't skip to that step, right?
Right.
He created a world where the Kentucky Derby was everyone tripping on acid and like faces were melting and things like that. And within that world, everything he said made sense. You're creating a world where I need you to believe everything about my training program. And then within that context, Ben has a rat face.
Yeah. That was
That's
also
great.
my earlier attempts at like describe, he's a new character walking into the room. So I was like, I have to give this guy like physical attributes. And then that's like, I will say the other thing is that as I wrote more and more drafts,
Yeah.
like later drafts were just
Yeah.
less emotional about that. And so I was
Yeah.
willing to show and not tell. But I will
Yeah.
say
Yeah.
those early drafts were all
Yeah.
telling because I came out
Yeah.
guns blazing, so angry from training that I
Right.
was like, I'm gonna evicerate them. Like, I will tell you that you should
Right.
feel mad.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I truly believe, like, I will
Yeah.
say, so, you know, the manuscript's done, and the
That's
best
awesome.
compliment I got, like, last week was,
Amazing.
like, this person, the author doesn't seem mad.
That's fantastic.
Kind
That's
of a miracle
really, really
for
great.
me, but
That's
this
really,
is
really great.
people should use that as, like, the poster child of, like, I was the angriest person I know. So the fact that over years we could get here where, like, it's measured, I
Right.
absolutely own all my own shit. I'm not, like,
Right.
a perfect angel to whom these various things happened.
Sure. And also that your writing has developed enough where you engender trust, which is a big deal. It doesn't matter how angry or not angry or measured your work is, but if you engender trust in the reader, you have carte blanche to really, really go for it. Congratulations. Fantastic. Cannot wait to read this. And I'll see how well you hid the Libra edge to your writing.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Yeah.
Please, I want
Yeah.
everyone to let me know how much
Yeah.
they can tell that, like, a Libra wrote this or not. That'd be actually a really funny, like,
I
quiz.
mean, I hope, when it comes out and people take a look at it, that you talk more about it because process has always been fascinating to me. Process in art, whether it's writing, comics. Um, I always like, if I ever get the chance to meet creators to talk about process, I find it more interesting than being like, oh, what does this work mean to you? And it's like, well, okay, it's broad. They probably can't encapsulate it, but process is fun because everyone has a different kind of approach. You talk about kind of paring things down or paring your voice down to reach the right tone. One of the challenges I have whenever I work on something is so if I have an idea for a story, I'll write down little notes. Okay, it'll be on like my notepad on my phone or on a little notebook I have, and these are just raw ideas. Most of them are not good, but some of them are pretty good. And you start formulating a story, but almost to fly in the face of what we were talking about earlier, I almost always overwrite, especially for comics, because with comics, you physically do not have the space. Okay. You don't have the space to explain or say everything. And so I'll write out a page and I'll plot it. So come out with like thumbnail sketches or very basic sketches of things. And then when I actually am putting pen to paper and drawing this out, there physically is not enough space for the word balloons and for the dialogue boxes. And it forces me to cut down, to get to the essence of things. It's
Mhm.
the way that you have all your stuff laid out. I don't know what kind of packer you are, but sometimes I'll lay everything out and then I'm like, I am only bringing this bag, and then you just got to pare down. And kind of what I have to do for process. I find other people have the exact opposite process when they're comic creators, and they write and draw at the same time, and it's too spare on the page, and they have to kind of build up and bloom their
Mm.
work. So it's fascinating to hear your writing process. I like to hear anyone creative to hear how they come up with what they come up with, and we all kind of arrive at it in different ways, I think.
I love that. I think that I'm more like you, certainly from a packing standpoint. And in terms of overwriting, I think another thing that was a big lesson for me as an artist was
Yeah.
don't be so precious about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have
Yeah.
essays that I just had to put into a scraps folder and
Correct.
literally what you're describing, like
Yeah.
overwrite, but
Yeah.
not be so precious about like, oh, my
Sure.
beautiful write. Well, now I might
Sure.
just expand the pages of this because I
Yeah.
gotta fit in every
Yeah.
beautiful word.
Yeah, yeah. I got the really wonderful opportunity earlier this year. I got invited to the University of Bologna, and I got to go there for a week and teach at the University of Bologna Medical School to teach about graphic medicine. So one of the exercises I did with the students is something I ripped off from a writing class I'd taken years ago. And it's a very basic writing exercise, but it's something that I think is essential for storytelling. So what you do is, let's say you have one page of writing, 250 words or something like that. And you take the first three paragraphs. What you do is you cut up all the sentences and you arrange them, and you see whether or not if you rearrange the order, if it really changes the meaning, but more importantly, you see if you can take out any of those sentences and still get the essence of what you're trying to say. And so for comics, you can do the same thing. If I have a 12 panel page, which is way too many panels usually, you draw them. I had the students draw out a story from beginning to end. It could just be as simple as you woke up in the morning all the way up until lunch, and they had 12 panels. And I said, I want you to draw all them and then take out all the panels you can until you get to the essence of the story. And one of the students was able to get it down to 2 panels, which is the very basic definition of comics. And I said, do you feel like you are missing anything essential from the story? And they said, no. And that's what an editor does. But certainly when we're self-editing, that's something you have to do. And if you're one of those creative people who need to focus your work or propulse your work because it's slowing down too much, sometimes you take those clippers out and you chop, 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 and that's what gets it done. Or in my case, that's usually what gets it done.
And I guess my question for you is, I don't get the sense, that your ego is a big problem. I've obviously spoken about a bit. Sure, that's another one of my vices. And so my question would be, what if a person is just having a lot of trouble clipping? Again, it hurts because they're like, this is my art. So it hurts me to cut it up. Do you feel that pain? How do you overcome it?
I always feel that pain because there's something in particular. If we make a mistake in medicine, we are told this is wrong, this is how you should do it. And I believe that's reasonable because there shouldn't be too much room for interpretation for how you're doing things. We have evidence-based ways to do things. With creative pursuits, you're much more vulnerable. You are putting yourself out there in a way that's unlike academics, in my opinion, unlike medicine. Let's just call it that way. And because of that, you feel every single sentence, every single panel is an expression of you, and you feel personally rejected, right? And so for me, what I found is having a trusted voice, whether you with your dream writer who you're working with, or me with a few people whose voice I trust, and they say this works or this doesn't, that I take less personally. The other thing is, getting comfortable with the rejection for creative pursuits, to me, I'm in my 40s now, even in my 40s, still hurts, but it's all become part of this collective experience of like, all right, another rejection, and you kind of got to start playing the numbers to say like, okay, what can I learn from this? Is there something useful to learn from this rejection? Are they saying something that makes sense? Or do I believe in something so much that they just can't see it and maybe I'm not pitching it correctly? And so you kind of have to have that balance. There's this fantastic, fantastic article that was just written in The Guardian. I'm going to look up the name of the author because I just shared it with one of my friends. It's an American author. His name is, I just shared it here, Bob Brody. Okay. So he's an author in his 70s, and he talks about the stages of grief of rejection, right? Because he had been rejected thousands of times to this point, right? And he said in his 20s, he was like, fuck that. How dare you reject me? This shit is going to set the world on fire. In his 30s, he's like, okay, I can't believe they don't see how brilliant my ideas are, but like maybe I can change this or that. By his 40s, he got despondent, right? Because he had not published his first novel until he was 51. So you're ahead of the game, Francis May. And he talks about how he sees it now philosophically. He has a chance to see. He was in almost these stages of denial, anger, bargaining, grief, and acceptance. And what he sees now is, first of all, he's in good company. You have Sylvia Plath, famously rejected her whole life. So you can take comfort in that. And then also, the advice he gives to his daughter, who's an aspiring author, or journalist, I think, is you're going to get way more no's than yeses in your life. But if you keep working through it all, no matter what, by virtue of working, you have to get better. You will not get worse if you keep working. Presuming you can still live and eat and have a roof over your head. And you will start balancing out where you're giving yourself a chance, or other people a chance, to say yes more often. You're just trying to raise that ratio of yeses to nos. And the only way you can do that is to keep working. And he said some of it is just the vagaries of the system. Publishing is dying, and so you have these poor editors who have to sift through thousands of pitches, right? And you might think your pitch is great, but maybe it needs to be reworked, or maybe it's just not the right thing for that magazine at that time. I'm pitching a story right now. I'm working with this fantastic author, Adam Bessie, and we're
Mm-hmm.
pitching a story about his brain cancer that had recurred. And I'm going to draw it. He's going to write it. I'm like, man, this is gold.
Beautiful.
Start pitching it to the Guardian, to Boston Globe, and it's being rejected. And I'm like, okay, this is part of the game, but we're starting to get little hints. Like the Boston Globe, I don't even know if, I mean, it's fine. This is not like a grand secret of the editorial process. They were kind of hinting, like, shape it a little bit so that it can impact the readers both on digital print, but then also on social media, right? Format it that way because it's
Mm-hmm.
not formatted that way. So these little hints, there are ways that we can glean lessons from it, but also not get too
Bogged
kind of
down.
bogged down. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Or discouraged by it.
I love that. I love that. I hope I get to read it,
Yeah,
wherever it lands. And
yeah.
I
I think
just,
it'll live somewhere. Yeah, yeah.
it really resonates though, because when you share this author in The Guardian, like my first thought, you introduced him in one line. You said he's in his 70s. He's experienced thousands of rejections over his life. My first thought was, I should be so lucky. Like seriously, that means
Yeah,
that he
yeah.
stayed at it for all that time.
Exactly.
Like I
Exactly.
would be honored to
Yeah,
get to continue to pursue art to the point that when I'm in my
exactly.
70s, yeah, I mean, there's going to be wins also. And that's because when I hear thousands and thousands of rejections like that, I'm like, I know that guy has wins. Also, he has this Guardian piece now. So, I mean, like,
For
yeah,
sure, for
I
sure.
know that there are wins within there because you don't
Yeah.
get to 1,000 rejections, I don't think, without ever.
Impossible. Impossible.
Yeah.
Read the article because you couldn't have boiled that article down more succinctly. That's exactly what he says. There's this famous adage in comics, or illustration. I think it's an apocryphal saying, but basically it's the idea that everyone has 10,000 bad drawings in them. The sooner that you get to that, the better an artist you'll be. And I believe that. I have plenty of bad drawings left to go, but it's true. You just keep working, and you just do not get worse. And I agree with you. The resiliency of someone like this author shows that it's possible, and you really have to establish kind of a great framework of mind to be able to get to that point.
Yeah. I love that. But yeah, exactly. 10 years ago, me in my 20s, I would have been like, wow, wow, what a loser. He had thousands of rejections. Like, I did not get it,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
I'm happy to be with like
yeah,
artists and community in that regard now.
yeah, yeah.
The last thing that I'll say is that I do find it very inspirational to look at, like Kristen Wiig recently did an interview where she was asked about Bridesmaids. They were like,
Interesting.
you were on SNL still when that came out, and did your life change overnight?
Yeah,
And Kristen laughed and she was like, well, they told us that it didn't do as well as it was supposed to do. And so she was like, I didn't even really give it more thought. They were like, we tried,
that's
like just table it.
fascinating.
And so years later, when she left SNL finally, and of course
Yeah,
it's on every streaming. I mean, Bridesmaids is like,
sure.
I don't know anyone who hasn't seen Bridesmaids.
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah. It's a
it
massive
did
hit.
not hit like the comedy
Yeah,
numbers, or maybe, compare it to
yeah,
Knocked Up or maybe some predecessors in that
sure.
genre, but it's so
Yeah.
funny. So I'm not trying to hedge my stuff, but like even when I think of my book, I'm like, I just want to be a cult classic. I'm happy to be in the
Yeah,
Kristen Wiig Bridesmaids camp in that
that's right.
regard, where it doesn't
That's
move a million units
No, for sure,
at
for sure.
launch.
Yeah, yeah. It would be ideal for any author, any creative person to have their work consumed and appreciated immediately and in the moment and while they're alive. In the meantime, I do think, I remember when I was younger, I'm like, man, I used to go to the San Diego Comic-Con all the time, and they have these awards called the Eisner Awards, and I'm like, I used to go to the Eisner Awards, and I'm like, I'm going to become a comic artist. I'm going to win all these awards and blah, 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 right? Because I was like a young piece of shit. And then I started working professionally, and then you start whittling away what you really, really want. Because really, what I want to do is make the comics. I want them to get published so I could share them with people. and then that's it. Everything else is out of your hands. Tom Watts, the musician and sometimes actor, said when he was in his 20s, when he started making music, he was certain, he was of that mindset. He was a man who was going to change the world with his music. And then now, when he I forget how old he is now, but he appeared in a number of great Jim Jarmusch movies and things like that. And he's like, thank God I can still work creatively, and that's enough. And it's just a completely different frame of mind, and he's so much happier for it.
Hmm.
Instead of this long suffering idea of like, why don't people recognize how great I am? Maybe it just didn't hit. Maybe it was not marketed correctly, but at least he got to do what he wanted to do. And that's kind of my approach. And I think, or I hope it's an approach most people take, because it makes it a lot easier than hoping that you're going to be an instant bestseller.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, one practical question that I have is really like for those of us, let's say I'm a medical student right now. This is very interesting. I'm seeing a lot of complex or like really beautiful stories that I would want to get out via the graphic medicine medium. And so, really, my question is just how do I start out? I'm overwhelmed by the choices out there. It feels like you have to get an expensive Illustrator type. But do I have to buy an iPad to get started? That's also
Yeah.
expensive now.
Yeah. No, great question. So, if you are interested in this idea of illustrating stories about your experience, that is the only price of entry. That, a piece of paper, a pen, and an iPhone. Okay. And frankly, people who are younger now can harness technology to get the word out and to get their art out better than I ever could. I just can't figure out social media in that respect. But um, the tools, when you start out in any creative field, whether it's photography or drawing, you reasonably focus on the tools because they're interesting. You think, if I get this right pencil or
Mhm.
paper or things like that, the sketchbook, that can be fun, but it can be this enormously cost prohibitive exercise. Start with whatever you have. If you are interested in storytelling, you can draw it on your iPad in the notes section, and that's all it takes to start being able to figure out and explore this world. What I would say is more valuable, once you start doing this and start coming up with these comics or writing comics, is to reach out to people in the community, people in graphic medicine. I've been fortunate enough, I worked with the creators of graphic medicine, Ian Williams, Dr. Ian Williams, and MK Searwick, who was a nurse from Chicago. And I started contributing to their website. I was a founding contributor back in 2012. And the reason why is because I read this BBC article about what they're doing. I'm like, holy shit, this is exactly what I want to do with my life. I reach out to them, and then I get connected with this community. Dr. Michael Green's another big prominent figure in this field. And we're all so happy and so excited about this field, and will tell and talk anyone's ear off about it, who will listen. So if you can reach out to any of those people, or reach out to me, and I can connect you with just this whole smattering of people who are passionate about this type of storytelling, and we can point you to the right resources. So whether, even if you don't have a medical humanities class at your medical school, we can point you to online resources, the sequential artist workshop, all these things that are available that were never available just 5 or 6 years ago. And you can
Wow.
start working. And my biggest advice, I was talking to someone at the Philadelphia event, is just start, because there will never be a right time to do it. Now, you will never have more time than you do now. So just do it, and then see what works and see what excites you about it. And then start reading some of the other stuff in the field. What I want to do through HC is introduce people to titles, some great titles, some people who've really, really done fantastic work in the genre, just so you can see what's out there, not to be intimidated by it, but just to get a flavor for what's possible.
Amazing. We truly cannot wait. That's coming kind of this winter and beyond, but I'm very excited about the journey we're on. And like, again, we could talk for a million hours. We'll bring you back on the pod.
Yeah, three timers.
Absolutely. You're going for the trophy, and people
That's
can catch you on social rounds as well. Thank you for being here, Ryan. I agree with, I love the start now mentality. I love the famous old quote, sometimes attributed to Buddha, I think. But the problem is you think you have time.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah. No, I think it's great. Thank you so much for having me again. I can't wait to show everyone more about graphic medicine and to keep this conversation going.
thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Surgeon Interrupted. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe, rate, and leave us a review. It's a privilege to be here with you guys every week, learning together, and again, starting over as many times as we need to, and just really going for it.